Hey y'all, I'm actually going to ask folks who are here visiting us from Urge staff to go ahead and jump in. And then if we could popcorn, I think that'll work best. I guess folks are feeling a little hesitant and not knowing when other people are going to be speaking. So if we could try popcorn style, let's do that.
Hey, I'm Nigel. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the Kansas organizer for Urge based out of Wichita, and I can pass it to Jesse.
Hello, everyone. It's morning here. Good morning. My name is Jessie. I use she, her, pronouns. I'm also Urge staff, and I'm based out of California, Los Angeles to be specific. MK, Courtney, did you want me to just pass it on to anyone else? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes, Jessie.
Yeah, okay. I will popcorn it to Sophie.
Hey, Sophie here. Thanks so much for everybody for organizing and leading. I use she, her pronouns, and I am in Atlanta, Georgia. I can pass it over. Nadia, have you introduced yourself yet?
I have not. Thanks, Sophie. Nadia, she, her pronouns, coming from Atlanta, Georgia, and I work with Amplify Georgia, and we have the pleasure of working with Urge, so happy to be here. My bad, I gotta popcorn it. Let's go to Jessie.
I already shared, but I'll pass it to someone else for you. How about we'll pass it to Michaela?
Michaela Jackson, are you here with us? Are you double muted potentially? Okay, y'all, for the sake of time, we're just going to go ahead and move on. Thank you. Sorry, is someone speaking? Okay. Tia Freeman, did you get to go? Sorry, y'all, this is just much more difficult than it should be.
Hey, I'm Tia Freeman, she, her pronouns. Sorry, I'm calling in from work.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much to introduce yourselves. Yeah, Courtney, we can go ahead and move on to the next bit.
Yeah, so here is our agenda for the day. I also wanted to should have mentioned when we were doing intros, that this session is going to be recorded, just so that folks know. But yeah, here is our brief agenda rundown. MK are going to be moving y'all through this. Just don't forget, take care of yourself, take care of your body, rest, water. If you need to step away, feel free to do that as needed. We know folks, Zoom world, we've been in Zoom world for like, I don't know how many months, 7 or 8, I don't know. So just be as present as you can here with us. If folks could go ahead and add your pronouns to your Zoom name, just so that we can be sure that we are referring to one another in the way that we want. And so the way that you do that, there's some little dots in the up in the right hand corner next to your picture. You just click on that and can click rename and just add your pronouns to the back end of your name. That would be really helpful for all of us here. And yeah, make sure, check your mic. If it sounds like, if you think you're not being heard, hop in the chat, let us know. We have a team here of folks who will help troubleshoot. So yeah, we can go ahead and move into the goals for the session. Does that feel good, MK? Cool. So our goals in bringing this group of folks together is to create a space for young RJ organizers in the South to just meet one another, get to know one another, really across state lines. We likely, if we're in the same states, maybe do know each other, but just to build a little bit of community across the South. We also want to sort of learn and practice caring for one another, and really make a point to talk about how our work is rooted in healing justice, and like how and what that can look like for young RJ organizers in the South. And then we'll sort of end with a really fun activity where we will work together to envision what's the liberated future that we're all working toward. Sometimes it can just be like a healing balm to speak our dreams and our visions into existence and to say it to one another. So that's what we're gonna do. We're hoping that this session can just be like some healing balm for our organizing comrades throughout the South. MK, do you want to move us into some community guidelines?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Courtney. Hi, everyone. Again, MK, she, they pronouns, and I am the Georgia State organizer with URGE. So while Courtney, so lovely, is calling in from Alabama, and we're working across state lines in that ways today, I am here in Georgia. So if you are also in Georgia and interested in figuring out how to get involved with URGE Georgia, please feel free to contact either of us and we'll get you the information that you need. But yeah, so we're gonna spend just a couple minutes and co-create some community guidelines. You know, I trust that folks here have hopefully been in one or more spaces in the last like 6 months digitally where you've worked through this. So you have some idea of like the norms surrounding like muting and unmuting yourself. I really hear what I want us to think more about is how do we want to engage with one another? Something that Courtney and I discussed in planning for this session with you all is intentionally like making a concerted effort to decenter organizational affiliation in this space. So not coming to this pre-conference space like, oh, sometimes we can have a hierarchy in our minds about orgs based on like funding, based on geographic location, based on, I don't know, time zone, based on who their ED is, all of these kinds of things. And we really just want to encourage folks to come to this space like as themselves. So obviously, like while we're here as employees of an org or staff members of an org, we're really in this space though as other young people in the South who are organizing related to reproductive justice and also really invested in offering healing justice modalities and skills to our community members. So yeah, I guess one of the first things we can think through is making a concerted effort to decenter organizations. I can go ahead and add that to this slide. But do folks either want to come off mute and share or drop in the chat any community guidelines that stand out to them as something that they would like to center in this space?
Can I add one? I really love participatory conversations, like, sorry, I need to mute my Slack. Sort of balancing being present and being engaged with taking care of yourself. We want people to be here with MK and I. That's I think a big part of like the healing justice work that we'll talk about, just being present and being like a contributing, participating member of the group.
Thank you for that, Courtney. Does anything else come to mind for folks? We also don't have to sit here and like twiddle our thumbs if you're like, this isn't really why I'm part of this session. I don't really want to think about building community guidelines right now. I'd rather you all just talk. We can move on. So I'm gonna like count backwards from 10 in my head. And if folks haven't said anything, we can keep going.
I think one that I like, this is Sophie here. I think one that I like is challenging ideas, but not challenging people, or like critiquing ideas, but not people.
I like that too, Sophie. Thank you. I think that actually falls really well in line with a text that I'll be reading from today for an Oracle activity that we're going to do later. I'm actually going to be pulling Oracle from Adrienne Marie Brown's new book on We Will Not Cancel Us. So yeah, critiquing ideas and not people. Any additional ones?
I always like the one about what's learned here leaves here, but what's said here stays here. Just like knowing that some sensitive things may be shared and like taking the lessons from that and not necessarily somebody's personal story.
Thank you, Nigel. So again, like remembering to the necessity of citing places and people who you get information from, but also not co-opting someone's story. Also, like if you're here as someone who plans on journaling or writing about this in a public space, this is a private and closed space. So like naming that, disclosing that information, similarly to how we named that we were recording the session. So just allowing folks the opportunity to opt in and out of things as well. Similarly, like I guess I can finish up with number 5, which I would say is like challenge by choice. So if there's a particular part of the conversation that feels particularly difficult for you, of course we would want you to engage and hope that we're able to foster a space here where you would feel supported in doing so. But if you like don't respond, we're not gonna like come at you in the chat privately like why haven't you been participating in this session? So I'll just wrap us up here with challenge by choice. Thank you everyone for participating in that. Let me see if I can get this back up for us. Wow, that actually looks pretty cute if I do say so myself. I don't know who made these slides or anything, but they're really cute. Just kidding, I totally made them. That's why they're so cute. If I can tell y'all, look, I was so stressed about these slides. Y'all can ask Courtney. I was like, Courtney, I just was so worried that they wouldn't be cute. But today the lesson is trust who you are, i.e. trust your inner bad bitch. That's just that. Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna move us into a conversation on healing justice. So Courtney and I work for an RJ org, we know that, blah. That's not why we're here. We're here today to really foster a space where people in the South feel like they can talk to one another. And really the guiding, I would say the compass or the thing that we want to use to guide our state of mind, the place that we're coming from energetically in this conversation, how we would like to care for ourselves and one another is from a place of healing justice. So I'm going to begin, actually, I want to be very clear about where I'm pulling this information from. Courtney, since I'm screen sharing, would you mind dropping the link to this article? So for folks who may or may not be familiar or who are here and getting a refresher, healing justice is a US Southern-based political strategy. I'm using the wrong mouse, sorry y'all. Aligned with the care and safety strategies of human rights defenders around the world. I'm pulling this definition of healing justice from Project South's Health, Healing Justice, and Liberation statement. Courtney is going to drop a link to that in the chat. This is their most recent publication in defense of folks who were at the Irwin ICE detention facility. as well as just a statement on the current state of healing justice. I want to give credit where it is due and name that Healing Justice was co-created in 2005 by the Kindred Southern Healing Justice Collective in a lineage of Black Southern radical traditions. Healing Justice is a strategy seeking to intervene on generational, collective, and individual trauma from systemic violence and oppression, policing, etc. And the way that healing justice comes about is really through an intentional practice of recovering our ancestral medicines and practices. We have to be very clear and recognize that some people's ancestral medicines and practices are not the ancestral medicines and practices that are going to get us to where we need to be. White supremacy is an ancestral practice, and that is something that we're ultimately working to refute and divest from and dismantle in the sort of work that we're taking up. And there are other forms of like ancestral medicines that have been, some would say lost, or I would say like intentionally buried by practices of white supremacy to keep a separation from the people and their land, and instead creating a relationship between the people and a product. So we're here really today thinking about how to frame essentially like the moment of respite that we are all really in need of just talking about like, all right, we know all this shit has gone to waste in 2020, or not to waste, but like everything has been really rough, essentially. And taking an intentional moment to reflect on what it is that we are still struggling toward. And we want to frame that in a realm of possibilities where having ancestral medicines and practices are available to us. So whether that be like certain foods, certain music, certain dance, certain spiritual practices, whether that's like a certain sort of routine that you hold daily. Yeah, so this is not, essentially that's it. I was gonna say something else, but yeah, essentially we're gonna be weaving this throughout how we hold our conversation with one another today. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the next slide. Courtney is gonna take us through thinking about this question. This is gonna provide everyone another opportunity to speak in sort of a check-in question way.
Yeah, so this is sort of, our check-in question, our getting to know you, our attempt to sort of ease into getting to know one another with hopefully what's a really exciting question to answer. What do you love about being an RJ organizer? What has it offered to your life or taught you? Feel free to please just popcorn again to one another. And I will popcorn it. I'll start off by popcorning it to Nigel.
Oh man, I was hoping I wasn't going first.
You can send it to somebody else if you want to.
Yeah, I need some time to think about this. If somebody who feels like they're ready wants to come off mute and talk about it, because I don't know who's ready and who's not.
I can go for it if no one else wants to start it off. Sophie here in Atlanta again. I'll say that I'm coming from a research background. I do a lot of reproductive health related research in the Southeast. And so it's a slightly different, I think, approach than organizing, though absolutely involved in the reproductive health rights and justice larger system. I think from the research side of things, I'm most excited about listening to people's stories and centering people's experiences. I think that, really trying to understand what people are going through and living with, especially as it comes, to like what policy effects are kind of placed on people in the Southeast in particular, I think is a driver for what I'm doing with my work. So and also getting to partner with folks that are organizing and doing the work and have been doing the work for decades and generations, I think is the other really exciting part for me. And I can popcorn it, but I can also leave it open if anybody else wants to go for it.
Okay, I think I have a good answer that I like. So most of my RJ organizing experience has been through Urge, which is very young person centric. And in my current role, I find it very like rewarding to help other young people start to gain their sense of empowerment in a system that's meant to hold them down. And like I just love seeing the possibilities every time there's a new person coming into our work in Kansas, and like seeing them start to connect concepts together and relating that to their own lives and using those skills that we offer to them to better their own lives. And I think that's kind of taught me to decentralize my own personal experience and listen to others and kind of guide them through what they're going through. And I think that helps me think about future things and just like thinking about the words to put to this, but knowing that things don't rest on an individual and rest on a collective really brings me a lot of comfort.
I can go next. I would say that I feel very similarly to Nigel. Perhaps the most rewarding thing about my work has been like having conversations that feel like introductory or very 101 with young people to like to maybe older folks who are part of the conversation, or like me as someone who has been a part of RJ work for a while now, and just seeing folks connect concepts, like the way that their face lights up, or when they recognize that there's a set of possibilities outside of anything that they have ever seen modeled or that they ever thought of, is really rewarding. And that's not to sound paternalistic or even rooted in a savior complex of sorts. And I think that there's a need to name that as well. I just think it is riveting and very beautiful to watch young people rise to their power and recognize that like they don't have to stand for so much, like they don't have to allow things to happen to them that they don't want to happen to them. And I think we live in a world where like our parents make all of the decisions for us until we're 18. And then you turn 18 and like we have this hegemonic idea of how that works. And the truth is that that's like not the reality for most of us. A lot of us come from mixed family backgrounds. A lot of us had some sort of responsibility placed on us as a young person due to systemic pressures that impacted our families. Whether we're from working poor backgrounds or even a Black or brown person who is middle class, we know that doesn't look the same for like white people who are middle class or white people who are wealthy. We know that young people hold a lot, and we know that young people experience a lot. And I think that the most rewarding thing about my work has been being able to honor those things, whereas in a society that devalues its young and its old, we often turned a blind eye. Sorry, that's ableist, but like we often ignore the things that our young people are experiencing. And we often don't turn to them for answers. And I think that it's actually been really beautiful to turn to young people for answers as a young person myself, because I'm like recognizing like, wait, we know a lot more than we've been allowed to believe that we do. Would anyone else like to go? You can also feel free to drop like a sentence or two in the chat, or even just a word describing how you have experienced your work. I think we just wrote as an RJ organizer because that's what we do, but like didn't even think about that. But if you aren't an RJ organizer, that's totally fine. I'm sure that you do something that feels like your life's work, or I hope that you're in a place where you're working towards that. So I guess then my question is, yeah, what about it makes that appealing to you? Or what has been something that has been really moving for you to do in that role? That is a really unclear question.
I think for me, the thing I love maybe the most is that I get to be surrounded by really cool people who I get to learn from all the time. And, you know, whenever I am in a space that isn't with a bunch of like really cool radical folks, I feel it really deeply. And so that has definitely been a gift as I've been working with people in this space.
I can share too. There's so many things that I love about the work that I get to do. I would say similar to Isabel, part of it is people who do reproductive justice organizing work, like, and understand the frame and the history of reproductive justice, are just like raddies that, and it's such a queer group of people, it's always such a trans group of people, or people who understand those things. And so, yeah, sort of in that way, there's like an inherent comfortability that I like in this, speaking of this, of a similar language that I really get a lot of comfort from, especially being like a queer non-binary person who has lived in many, who prefers living in rural spaces, where often in those spaces and in my communities, everyone around me does not have that understanding of the world, like a reproductive justice understanding of the world. So that is really refreshing and important to me. I think the other piece that like is really critical and that I love the most about RJ is its history and tradition of being rooted in a radical Black women-led Southern organizing tradition. I love the South. I love the South. I love the South. Everybody about me knows that. And to me, RJ, sort of MK, when you were talking about healing justice and its history in Southern tradition and Southern organizing, that's how I feel about RJ too. I'm like, people in the place that I love created this like beautiful, radical, intersectional thing that I think is like way more of the solution than reproductive rights work, for example, and just how innovative and like the problem solving and I don't know, all of it. It's also really intersectional. That is like a really core and important piece to me, is how intersectional and how it's based in a human rights framework, not in a choice framework or a pro-choice framework, because I think that's really limiting.
Absolutely, Courtney, I agree with you. I want to read Emily's comment in the chat. Hello? Okay. Yeah, Emily says in the chat, doing RJ work feels like home. I felt like I didn't belong in other spaces, especially white feminist spaces. Sometimes it feels exclusive and elitist towards people of color who are from the South. Everyone in RJ is so different, but we all have commonalities and working towards liberation for the most marginalized. Yes, there's nothing about that also like doesn't resonate for me. Yeah, being from the South, and anybody who knows me knows that I left the South for school and went to Boston, which is like the polar opposite of what life is like here in Georgia. Don't do that. Anyone listening, don't do that. But I will say it really made me miss, but also respect coming from the South. It wasn't until I was in the North that I realized how much of a beef people really have with the South. Folks like doubt our intelligence because we got a twang. Folks think that we move slow. Folks think that because our schools are underfunded that we're not smart. All of these things and that are not true. It is no surprise that perhaps like the most radical lines of work being reproductive justice and healing justice and transformative justice, even healing justice and transformative justice are rooted out of RJ work. And if we think of RJ, well, we know that RJ is ensuring that people are able to have the families that they want to have in communities that are safe, healthy, and sustainable for them to do so. So having the access to the things that they need. If we consider ancestral medicine and practices as fundamental rights, like cornerstone human rights, right? Not like a privilege associated or afforded to only a certain group of people, then we know that that is also like RJ. And I think that there is currently a national spotlight turned to the South in a way that typically it would not be. But we have to hold true in knowing that like the South has done RJ and will continue to do RJ. And that these are also like, this is historical. This isn't something that like some new age people who decided to move down South from some random other place like created. There were grandmas and aunties and cousins and sister midwives and doulas and community birth workers and herbal healers and oracle readers and tarot readers and all of these people witches who built out our communities down here in the South, and who also have supported us and carried us through so many different massive changes. That of course the most radical work that exists currently was born and bred in the South. That is really important, and it is something that needs to be said again and again and again and stamped everywhere. Because when folks think of transformative places or where they think of synergistic energy, people are always like, oh, New York, California. And it's like, New York and California wouldn't have the things that they had if it wasn't for the South. Because even the people who made those changes in like New York and California, if you trace the lineage, they're all probably from the South. So remember, we had great migrations. We had multiple of them. Also, please, like, I'm sorry, I'm now getting like really ramped up by this because I just really recognized that when it was really ridiculous to be going away to a private 4-year white, small, liberal arts college and having people typecast me, like broad stroke typecast me like, oh, that's just a girl from the South, and not recognizing like all of these things that I'm coming here with as just like second nature to me, or like as tools that I learned from the place that I'm coming from, that they like that we intrinsically have things down here in the South that other people have to train up for to like gain a skill set. But these are things that we learn just from like living in and moving through what the South is. That's not to say that the South is not racist. That's not to say that the South does not have systemic issues. That's not to say that like voter suppression isn't a problem, that queer and trans people are like violated here. All of these things are true. But in spite of that, there are still Black and brown queer people who live in the South. And I want to say too that the same goes for the Midwest. We often have like these coastal ideologies, but the same goes for the South and the Midwest. And so what does it mean for those people who make it in spite of all of these like systemic and structural obstacles being put in place for them, right? And oh yeah, so of course this work comes out of the South. Sorry, I just went on a whole tangent. I could talk about the South all day because, yeah, the South does the thing. It does the thing.
And we have plenty of space for more people to tell us what they love about doing this work. So I want to open that, keep that space open. There are other folks who want to join in about what it is that you love about doing this work. What has it offered to your life? We can also sit on that. MK, what do you feel and think about moving into a break, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's take a break, y'all. We're gonna take a 15-minute break. Courtney, I'm not good with time. Can you tell us what time we should come back?
If we can come back at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Before we move into that break too, I just want to give a little plug. So MK and I have created a directory for us to connect to one another and stay connected sort of beyond this conference. It's connecting via Zoom with a group of people is like not my natural way of connecting. And so that in itself is like, I don't know, it's kind of hard for me, and maybe other people can relate, but I personally have always found it helpful to connect with people beyond my first intro meeting with them. So we've created this directory. I will drop the link to that directory in the chat. If y'all want to be connected to one another, please feel free to put whatever information you want to be shared in that directory. I will say on the far right-hand side, we have a column for you to put your zodiac sign. If you don't know your zodiac sign, that's okay. If you could just put your birth date. MK and I are witches, and we can figure out your zodiac sign based on your birth date. But that specifically is important. If you could at least give us your name and your zodiac sign, even if you don't want to be included in the directory otherwise, because we'll be using that information in the second half of this pre-conference. So I'll go ahead and drop that link and make sure y'all get a 16-minute break.
Yep, that sounds good. So if folks want to rejoin us here at 1 p.m. Central or 2 p.m. Eastern, we're then going to move through a collective visioning activity where I'm going to map some stuff for us digitally and graphically on the screen. And then we'll do an oracle activity for closing. And it will be nice. And we'll see y'all back here soon. Courtney, if we wanted, we could play music now, but we also don't have to.
I was just pulling it up. You said music, the playlist?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just
Okay.
pulling it up just to play while we're talking. Is that okay with y'all, the ASL interpreters? Are y'all going to stay here? Okay.
You can play the music in the background.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm starting to turn, talking about the revolution. It's finally the table I'm starting to turn, talking about the revolution. Talking about the revolution. I've been standing in the welfare line, crying to those themselves, armies of salvation. wasting time in the other blood lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds. And finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn, talking about a revolution. No. Talking about a revolution. No. Talking about a revolution. No. Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening come, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. It's sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Doesn't it make more sense to kill her?
Wow. I just watched the video you sent me. Wouldn't it make more sense to kill her?
Petals fall from pink roses. Everything I thought I knew, I suppose is a lie. Everything dies and everything changes. The words evergreen, and I'm green kill the virus from the root. Take it with grace. I'm dumb and I'll chase. I'm young and I'll waste you away. I'm young and I'll waste you away. I'm young and I'll waste you away. I'm young and I'll waste you away.
Is not real life. That is what was going through my mind last week when I somehow found myself in Costa Rica.
You believe in freedom and not rest.
Gorgeous private villa on the beach with gourmet meals made by private chefs
You
and outdoor excursions including magic
freedom and not rest.
influencer for mom.
We who believe in freedom and not rest until the killing of black men, black mother son is as important as the killing of white men, white mother sons. We who believe in freedom and not rest. We believe in freedom and not rest. That which touches me most is that
There's a box out there.
to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. We who believe in freedom and not rest. Sing it with us, come on. We who believe in freedom and not rest. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I can but shed some light as they carry us through the gale, we who believe in freedom and not rest. We who believe in freedom and not rest. The older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. We who believe in freedom and not rest. We who believe in freedom and not rest. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We believe in freedom and not rest. We believe in freedom and not rest. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand and fight is the only way I struggle survive. Oh, 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 we do believe in freedom and not freedom. We believe in freedom and not freedom. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. Only you believe in freedom and not freedom. We will believe in freedom and not freedom. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, Ready or not, here I come. Get high, gonna find you and take it slowly. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me. Now that I escape, sleep, walk away. Those who go relate know the world ain't kick. Jail bars ain't golden gates. Those who fake, they break. When they meet their 400-pound mate, they find their food in the world. Everyone would have a gun in the ghetto, of course. We get the up and on their horse. Kick around, drinking movie shot. I pour a sip on the concrete. But it is cease, but no, don't weep. My clef's in a state of sleep, thinking about the robbery that I did last week. Money in the bag, banker look like a track. I wanna play with pelicans from here to Baghdad. Gun blast, think fast, I think I'm hit. My girl pinched my hips to see if I still exist. I think not, I'll send a letter to my friends. A born again hooligan, known as a king again. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and take it slowly. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me. Yo, I play my.
Hey y'all. So if you can, while I wait for MK to get back before we get into our next activity, if you can drop your zodiac sign or birth date into either the chat or the directory so that we can sort folks into groups, that would be helpful. Other than that, if y'all can do the like thumbs up or some sort of emoji to let us know you're back from break, that would also be helpful. Okay. December 16th, that is Capricorn, right? Is that Capricorn, December 16th?
Yeah, Sag.
Is it a cusp? Sag. Yes, Capricorn's January. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna get to play with signs.
The best part of the day. Y'all knew we would have to do this. Hannah, I'm gonna give you Aquarius because we currently don't have any other air signs. So you're our air sign.
I love Aquarians.
I fall in love with Aquarius. Like in love. So are we ready? MK, you ready? I can screen share for this.
Please do, because I don't like doing that. I forget that my screen is shared and I start like touching stuff, changing the slide and everything.
Love it.
Girl, nobody asked you for all of that.
Yep.
Did you put my sign down?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in a group too.
Well, we can be.
I would think it's super cute to be in a group.
Yeah. Yeah. You're Taurus, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Welcome back, folks. Let me put this in present mode. Okay. So this is the most fun part. Okay, I can't see the chat too, so can you do me a solid and keep up with the chat?
I sure can. Thank you.
So what we're gonna do now that we've sort of got to know one another, we want to do a visioning activity. We want to speak the future that we're trying to build into existence, because we know when we speak our dreams and when we visualize them, we are manifesting their reality. So that's all we're going to do together. We thought it would be fun to do this within the frame of astrological signs, just to add a little extra fun piece to it and to just sort of get in a practice of like working together, how people have different roles. So before we start with our check-in question, I want to sort people into groups based on their elemental signs. So fire signs, we have Nigel, you're our fire sign representative, Leo. Our group of earth signs, y'all are, and MK, do you mind dropping these in the chat, like fire, Nigel?
Yes. Jason just dropped that. He's a Gemini.
Okay. Jason. Yeah, so Nigel's our fire sign. For our earth signs, we have MK, Isabel, and is it Nakia? Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Nakia.
Nakia, okay. Those are our 3 earth signs.
I'm sorry, hold on. Earth is me, Nakia,
Isabel.
Okay.
Air is Hannah and Jason.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Water is me and Emily.
Sorry, y'all. My dogs are coming in the office. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got everyone.
I added Sarah in with the air signs. Monica is a Scorpio queen. Monica's with the waters. Monica doesn't even need to tell me her zodiac sign because I remember. So I'll add Monica here. So basically what we're gonna do, even if you don't know much about astrology, that's okay. MK and I are your spirit guides here. So, and of course, yes, Jesse's an Aries. I knew that too. Mm-hmm. Jesse, you're with the fire. Yep, you know your fire sign. So, fire signs, Nigel and Jesse.
I'm so sorry. Sorry, Courtney. I'm so sorry that we don't have a slide that like has this on it. Are you able to share what you're looking at, or should I make a slide that has this on it as a visual representation for folks?
I can share what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the notes.
Okay.
Just so that everybody can see.
I can also drop the descriptions of what each element offers. Okay, there you go. You have that. Great.
Yeah, it's right here. That's what I was about to go to. So, fire signs, Nigel and Jesse, what we want you to sort of help us in this group process is be decisive. That is the sort of a top line thing that fire signs offer to the world is a level of decisiveness that sometimes maybe hinges on impulsiveness. But we love that about you all. Earth signs, MK, Isabel, Nikia, we want y'all to help us stay grounded and rooted in our purpose, because the fire signs and the air signs might facilitate us getting a little bit far from our purpose or on tangents, maybe loving tangents. Air signs, Hannah, Jason, Sarah, you're going to help us envision big, bold ideas. Water signs, that's me, Emily, and Monica. Our role in this group process is to take care of one another, to facilitate group harmony, to keep a temperature on the room and mediate disagreements, or if we get in tough spots, I feel like we won't have disagreements. I shouldn't say we won't have disagreements. We might. That's the role of all of the signs. Do people have questions about that before we go into the visioning?
I just want to note, don't think about it too hard, y'all.
Exactly.
We are gonna work through a visioning prompt, like a question, and just do what you would naturally do. We're really just providing this language for you to potentially reflect and be like, oh, is that actually how I show up in a space? In organizing, we often categorize people by leadership style, but here we're just using elemental relationships to see if there's any sort of relationship there. And it's okay if there's not for you. It's just a way that we're splitting groups.
Yeah, the role that we've given you might not actually not feel natural. And maybe that's an opportunity to try a different rollout.
Absolutely. And just like additional to that, we also know that there are other things that impact like how you engage in a group setting and how you engage individually. So we're not trying to make any generalizations about people here either. So feel free to just do what comes most naturally to you.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. NK, are you ready?
I am.
Cool. So our visioning prompt is, and this is just an open conversation, so we hope that sort of like our other conversation prompts, people hop in as they feel they have ideas to share. But what are the liberated futures we are building toward in our struggle toward reproductive justice? And MK is going to help us by building our answers out in a visual.
Yes, I am. I am going to be working in our in the Canva presentation. So you all should, Courtney, maybe we could drop the link in the chat for folks. And if you want to open that, you can see as I make edits on like your individual screens. How does that sound?
Yeah. Can everybody see my screen share too?
Yes. I don't know if edits that I make will automatically show on your screen share, but it should because you're shared on the document, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see me here?
Okay, I just shared the Canva so that people can open it if they want.
Okay.
Sophie, I'm adding you in with the earth signs. See.
Okay, y'all. So essentially the way that we had really envisioned this was thinking through these questions together. And as folks share with us what they envision for the liberated futures we're fighting towards, what they see, what they feel, any sorts of senses that they like have it associated with that experience, this is something to like kind of both get us out of our body and into our head, and also out of our head and into our body. So yeah, if folks have any inputs there, we're just going to chart them graphically, and like try to build a little community on the screen. Courtney, I do think as we make additions, you're going to have to like refresh your thing every so often, because Canva doesn't automatically do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, so Courtney, if you want to like facilitate a discussion, I can put graphics wherever folks would desire for them to be, if they have any things that they want to see as a part of this community.
Yeah, so what are we building? I'll let folks just come off mute whenever this is Maven. I'll let y'all come off mute and let us know like what's the future that you're working toward.
Maybe it will also help to start with an idea. I can give folks a moment, but if you all need something to start with, Courtney and I had been discussing this last night, so we can start.
Yeah, I know I'm a high level thinker, and so I'm top line. I'm building toward an end to capitalism and white supremacy and everything that means.
Absolutely. Are there any certain things that you imagine that being associated with or reflected by, whether that's like a tangible system, an item, an emotion, a color, a feeling?
Oh my gosh, this cat. I see a farm. When I think about that, for me,
that's real.
I see a farm, just like grass, hills of grass.
There's this cute little image that I just found. It's so cute. Do you want to refresh your page, Courtney? Oh no, it's not showing. Maybe back out of the document and then go back in. Sorry, y'all. We're all learning. Okay. Yeah, so this is a little image of Courtney's envisioned farm that would be a part of a liberated future. I know that when we talked last night, Courtney, I also went on a rant about transportation, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did. I loved it.
Yeah, that is a very real thing that I would do. Here is an image of a bicycle to represent that I'm going to add into our little community. I'm going to try to put it on the path on the farm.
Oh. I'm gonna see if it'll, yeah, I just refreshed it and it worked.
Okay, I just moved the bike again, but I see it there. It's okay.
I'm not gonna let perfectionism be the
Yeah, nope, we're not at all. No, we are not.
We're envisioning an end to white supremacy.
White supremacy, perfectionism is a tool of white supremacy, everyone. We are chill. We are chill around these parts. All right, y'all. So Courtney and I have given y'all 2 examples. Please let us know some things that would be a part of this liberated future. And if you have any specific recommendations on graphics that would be associated with that, I'm happy to find a cute little quirky way to incorporate it into this image that we all have the opportunity to build.
I have one.
Yes, Monica.
Which is along the same line, sort of the same lines as Courtney. Also, I realized that I'm new to this space and I should probably introduce myself. Hi, my name is Monica Edwards. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a federal policy manager with URGE, and I work with Courtney and MK, my amazing friends and colleagues. So what I thought of immediately along the lines of dismantling white supremacy, more specific, is ending anti-Blackness and colorism. And when I think of that, and just violence against Black bodies, period. And when I think about that, I see or hear laughter, and I visualize Black people laughing, because I think people often joke about Black people being the funniest demographic of people in the world, always making jokes about things. And I think a lot of times we have Black joy due to so much everyday trauma and pain. And it's our way of sort of coping. And I would love to see a world where we're actually experiencing Black joy without trauma and being re-traumatized. That was a lot.
Period, Pooh. No, you're right. Without an end to anti-Blackness, there will be an end to us all.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a beautiful representation, Monica, what you're saying, laughter, the sound of laughter. I think that gets at the sensations that MK was naming. I can hear, I don't know, it's the sound of freedom, sound of liberation.
Oh my gosh, this image is coming together so well. I could cry.
Oh, it is.
So cute. I love. Okay, sorry, y'all.
Don't apologize.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, I have another one.
Okay.
Fat positivity, not even so much body positivity. I think that we need to be explicitly okay with fatness, because of the way that fatness is also coded as a determinant of someone's ability or inability to do, think, be multiple things. And it's one other measure of white supremacy, and another way that we try to devalue people and their bodies. And I think that we need to explicitly be okay with people having multiple types of bodies. And one of those things explicitly being fat bodies. Yeah, and I think that that just needs to be it. There doesn't need to be any question or conversation about it. It just needs to be it.
Yeah. A celebration of fatness.
Absolutely. I recently have gotten another set of stretch marks on the front side of my tummy, and I've never had that before. And quarantine has gifted that to me. And I've always been a very stretch mark heavy person. I have them all over my breast, my lower back, up my, everywhere, my legs. They've just always been a part of my body. And I was like, oh my God, I have stretch marks in another place. And I flipped the fuck out originally. And I was like, no, it's actually something to celebrate. My body is moving, it's shifting, it's growing. And it's still managing to keep me alive right now. And we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and I haven't had COVID and I'm grateful. But of course, I haven't experienced that. And so we need to also have new ways that we measure health and that we measure beauty. Sorry, I'm going on a whole tangent, but yeah, new stretch marks. I'm literally gonna put a person with stretch marks in this presentation.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds like just a lot of celebration. So
Oh my gosh.
joy and celebration.
Can we put like a library in there to represent like
Absolutely, we can.
access to information?
And I have the cutest librarian to be a part of it too.
Access to information. Love that. Can I add to that for the rural babies that don't have internet access and that are treated like they're stupid? And that's not okay. The rural babies need access to info, to internets.
Also thinking about like rural justice and environmental justice, I'm not sure the exact words for this, but like returning land to the people that it belongs to, because they have cultural practices that keep the land. Yeah, indigenous folks know the land better than white folks do, and the way that white supremacy and capitalism and industrialization has exploited the lands is harming people. Like I think about in Kansas when we have factory farms that use chemical fertilizers to where the people who live in those communities can't even drink like their water because they're on a well system. So I think about like sensory wise, I think about like crisp, clean water and like clean air and things that just don't have like artificial chemicals in the air.
Yeah. And I added in the chat, I don't know if the idea of like land back and reparation being part of the like necessary dismantling of capitalism and white supremacy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Courtney, you should refresh the page again if you can.
Oh, water. I'm a water sign. I mean, I guess we know that since we're divided into the signs, but yeah. Love water.
Absolutely.
I think of like a celebration of all different types of families, like celebrating single parents and celebrating LGBT parents and celebrating, you know, the different ways people create their families and have their families and intergenerational households. And I just think of a celebration of just how we love each other and how we take care of each other.
Absolutely. That's what Thanksgiving should be about. Like, it should be about us loving one another and how we take care of one another.
And the way that we do relationships too, like really thinking critically about the way that we do relationships and how to do that in a liberatory way, both like familial, romantic, sexual, all types of relationships.
I just imagine like a cuddle puddle of friends and just like celebrating that platonic love.
Yes, we love queer platonic intimacy. That's what I want. Cuddle pals, like aunties and cousins that are like not even blood.
Animals, lots of animals.
Critters, yes, of course. How is it taking us this long to get to the critters, MK?
Yeah, y'all don't know, but Courtney and I are the fucking animal hoarders of the Urge staff. Sorry. I'm cursing, but it's true. It's true. Literally today, like my partner and I are talking about, we have 2 dogs and a cat, and we were talking about if we should foster a senior dog that's under 10 pounds. I'm considering it, and I'm like, yeah, I want to have 3 dogs. I don't know, there's just something so enriching about having relationships with all kinds of life, whether that's plant life, human life, non-human life. It's cool.
I really love the celebration of families and all types of families, and I'll add on, like, can we have supports and policies that are supportive and flexible in meeting families' different needs, and not, splitting families up and targeting families that don't meet the definition of what's considered to be a traditional or white or middle class or straight or whatever family.
Yep. Is there something in particular that you think of that being represented by?
Yeah, I'll give an example of like the policies that require parents to be involved in young people seeking abortion services. One of the projects I work on is really focused on that, and how that policy doesn't fit with like what families actually look like and what their needs are, even when families, are collectively making decisions together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to add on to MK to what you were saying about being in relationship to all kinds of different beings. And I think this connects to something you said during Healing Justice too, is that like we deserve access to like our own ancestral knowledge, and how that, and knowledge about like the earth and the plants and like herbalism, that has sort of been like erased by capitalism in the medical industrial complex. Like a return to relationship with the plants that are our medicine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you mind refreshing the page, darling?
Yes. Oh, the critters.
I have one that someone made me think of, but I don't remember who it was. I actually have 2, but I'll just table the other one for now. But I have been listening to Megan Thee Stallion, and if you have not been listening to Megan Thee Stallion, please.
What are you listening to?
Like, what are you listening to? Go listen to it. And twerk in the bathroom. But anyway, I think of sex work, decrim, and I think of sex positivity and pleasure.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the image for that would be. Maybe.
Listen, I got it.
But I just think of not shaming people, especially young people, for their decisions. And I just think about pleasure, people knowing their bodies, and experimenting and just like enjoying sex and feeling the wonderfulness of sexual pleasure.
Absolutely.
So with consent, obviously. Yes.
Absolutely. And please, Monica, just for that, I'm putting a graphic of the vagina as the icon to the library.
Yes.
Wait, you have to refresh it again.
As soon as my computer lets me, I don't want to exit out of it. Can I add too to what Monica was saying? Sex work as a radical anti-capitalist economy, as a real economy, as a healing justice practice, as care for one another. Like, I'm thinking about it intertwined into all these other things that we were saying, like how we're in relationship to one another and how we provide community care to one another.
I don't know. I want to see like an implementation of like an exchange system. I don't think that the US dollar or honestly currency at all will forever serve us. And I think that we need to really prioritize the relationships that we have with people in terms of the exchange of goods. You know, things never used to be like we just get on an app on our phone and order from some like distributor a couple 100 miles away, and then the thing shows up at our house in 3 days. Like, that's something that people used to dream of, and that is our current reality. And people used to be like, oh, that'll never happen, or oh my God, I can't wait until this happens. You know, that is an idea that people have been having, and we just so happen to be living in that reality. But we also need to think about what comes after this. And I think a lot of the things that we're envisioning here are post-structuralist in terms of being like explicitly anti-racist and explicitly anti-capitalist. And part of disengaging with that is also leaning into our relationships and understanding that as like the most valuable thing we have and not items. And so then our relationships become the premise on which like we exchange goods. Because we like are the people who are creating these things, and we want them from people who are creating these things and who are like specializing in these things and are providing a set of services to our community. At least that's how I'm hoping to live. I want to live very collectively. Yeah, I don't know if folks have other thoughts on that. I don't think that this is like, I'm dreaming big here. I don't think that I will see that in my lifetime, right? And that's not the intention of dreaming. The intention of dreaming isn't saying, oh, this is only worth being the thing that I push for if I know that I'm going to see it. I think that a really large part of my organizing practice as someone who does RJ work but is heavily invested in healing justice as a birth worker. Like, I'm also a trained birth doula, and so this work feels very intertwined to me with making sure that future generations have the foresight, not even have the foresight. It's not about me. It's not about if I get to see this. It's about just ensuring that future generations are able to make it here as well, so that they can have the opportunity to continue to push. And it's also okay if what they end up dreaming for isn't the same thing that I dreamt for. They will be able to make decisions based on their time and needs, right? And it's just my responsibility to ensure that I like lay a foundation where it's possible for them to experience life. Sorry, that was a whole tangent.
No, that makes me think about, so I feel like Urge people are probably tired of me using this reference and this metaphor, but is what you're saying to me is this: Mariam Kaba's quote, an idea about we're on a 500-year clock, and like we have movement ancestors who've been doing this work for hundreds of years, and we should be, and we are, our movement should be deeply connected to them. And also, like, we're working on a 500-year clock for the people, for when we are ancestors.
Absolutely.
And like, we only have the current capacity to vision what we can vision. But this is major air sign thoughts. But the roof increases, right? Like, the freer we get, the more we're able to envision. And so the people who come after us are going to be able to envision liberated futures that like we can't even formulate in our brains.
Exactly.
Right? And yeah, so it's like, I'm thinking a visual representation of this MK is like a circle of arrows over all of this that shows how sort of like cyclical and connected to like movement ancestry we are.
I hear you. I'm working on moving some things around now.
Monica, I'm curious about what the other thing that you were going to say was.
Well, I feel like it's kind of captured in like the land back reparations conversation, but I'm just thinking about the Western idea of borders, like, and just how that's been used to harm so many different groups of people. But I feel like it's captured with the land back and reparations.
This is so much fun to be making, y'all. Okay.
What's the couch?
I'm trying to build like a home space where there's like an altar.
Okay.
Yeah. Y'all can also tell me if that isn't something that you want. But we were just talking about also like leaning into ancestral connections. And I don't necessarily want to depict an ancestor, because I think that all of our ancestors look different, and we need to sit with that. And so I want to just create the opportunity for folks to be like, oh yeah, a visual image of like intentional connecting with ancestry, whether that, and that's typically something I know that I do like a lot in my living room space. So that's just what I thought of as like a neutral thing. I moved it over though, and I made it much smaller, so we have more space. So folks, please keep giving us ideas.
I want to add that I'm not muted, am I? No. The couch made me think of this, the idea of radical rest and combating sort of the way that capitalism has like literally wired into our bodies, that we got to be doing.
Absolutely.
And how radical rest is, how productive rest is.
Absolutely. I just made someone lounging on the couch. It hasn't showed up yet. That's okay. Wow. These are so many beautiful things. Yeah, I'm also thinking about food and like having access to, not everyone wants a home cooked meal, right? Like that's not a thing that everyone desires, but we should all have access to food in whatever way that we want to have access to it. And like, I literally don't care if someone wants to eat pizza, a donut, and a fucking hamburger. Like, if that's what they want to eat, they should have access to it. So what I'm not saying here is like, it would be fucking dope if we all got together and like gave farmers the money that they deserved and everyone was able to have fresh shit. But if that's not what someone wants, I'm not forcing that on them. But I just think that we have the resources available to us for everyone to have food in whatever way they want. And that isn't the current reality. That just isn't the current reality. We have a housing crisis in the world. We have a global housing crisis, but especially here in the United States and especially here in the South. Yeah. And y'all, like, I'm not even gonna get into it, because earlier I was having a whole conversation about how poverty and genocide are literally the same thing. But yeah, sorry, I'll get off my high horse, or my tangent. I don't necessarily think I'm on a high horse, but anything else that folks are thinking about?
Yeah, I would say let's take one more. Let's see what Hannah's saying. We should all be able to enjoy the process of living. That gets lost in capitalism. Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. Let's take one more thought before we close out this activity and move to our oracle reading closing.
Anything else, y'all?
This is a beautiful, I would love to live in this community with a vulva on the library. Oh, and the little heart of holistic, Isabel says holistic healthcare.
Hell yeah. Is there any image that comes to mind for you related to that, Isabel?
Not really, but like definitely not a hospital, because those places are horrible. I mean, you know, people's lives are saved, but it's like a bad place for many people.
Cool. Let's see if I can find, like, I'm just gonna put this little logo of like, oh, that is not what I meant to do.
Of witches and doulas and birth workers, like
Hell yeah.
community-based healthcare.
Yep.
That, yeah, is, our healthcare system is oriented around capitalism. That's how hospitals are built. And so like maybe like a little granny witch with a medical bag or something. I don't know.
Yep. Look,
what are the little apothecary vials?
Me right now. And I put some pregnant people meditating over here in the corner.
Love it.
And I'm gonna find like a midwife little thing.
So while MK's finishing up the visual representation, I'll go ahead and close us out on this activity. This was fun. I don't think I've ever done this in this way before, but yeah, it seems like I'm seeing a lot of life, plant life, people, critters, joy, celebration, freedom. I think this is a refreshing sort of thing to look at and think about, as opposed to, I know in my day-to-day, I'm constantly thinking about all of the structures that are in my way and that are harmful, but thinking about and looking at this feels good. It looks cute. Thank you, MK, for helping us. Do you have any closing thoughts on this activity?
I just think that this is so fucking dope. I wish that I had gotten the idea to like do something like this before, but I'm glad that it happened now because it's so cute. Like, y'all, the library has a vulva on it. There's a bodega cat at the library. There's mamas and people who are pregnant like over here levitating. Like, people are resting. There is so much life. It just is really cute. Like, there's sex. Like, this is so good. I kind of want to print this and also then like paste some like cutouts over it, like out of a magazine, and like turn it into a real collage. I don't know. It's just so cute. But not that this isn't a real collage. We also worked very hard on this. Thank you all for participating.
Yeah, I wonder too, we have people's email addresses from the directory, so I wonder if we can cut this into an image or like turn it into a PDF and send it to folks so everybody.
Yeah, I absolutely can. I honestly will probably continue to work on it and shape it up a little bit and fill in the spaces. And once it is solid, I would say by the end of next week, I can mail it out to everyone.
Sounds great.
Yeah, we can move into the next part.
Yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Okay, y'all. So again, thank you so much for that envisioning activity. I feel like that is really what I needed to get in the headspace for this next part of our afternoon. So this is our closing activity. And at first I had written up here like Oracle activity, and I was like, wait, MK, Oracle is not just like an activity. So I don't also want to use that language of activity to allude to this being something that can just be done like in a jovial fashion. But Oracle is a tool of communication that I personally use a lot in my day-to-day life. I will say that I have not been using it as frequently as I like have in the past. There have been multiple periods of time where I've like extensively read Oracle and Tarot. Post-graduating and post-starting working full-time, it has not been so much of what I do, but this is another passion of mine and something that I also envision being part of ancestral practices that I have as part of my life. And yeah, I like to also not necessarily take it out of that context, but provide people a little bit of a deeper understanding of what Oracle is before I take part in it with them. And just as, yeah, this is just as general information. So I view Oracle as a tool of communication. Whether sometimes that might be a tool of communication between me, myself, and I, between myself and a like inner thought, between me and a person or people who I'm mediating a conflict or a conversation with, and also a divination tool of communication with higher spirits. Yeah, so that's something that I see Oracle as. I see Oracle as an opportunity for distilled guidance and meditation. I see Oracle as it being a tool of communication, something that is only capable of reflecting energy that is already there. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It always exists. It just transforms. So I think of Oracle as the opportunity for me to receive information that I have likely received before, but just in another way. And being provided a specific opportunity to receive guidance on like one thing in my life or a clear moment of meditation or insight on another thing in my life. And because it does those things for me, I see it as a means for grounding and centering. Oracle is often something I have turned to when in like very heated moments in my life and also very cold moments too, where I've like, there have been times where I've turned to an Oracle deck like in fiery passion and like wanting to know about a new lover. There have been other times in my life where I've turned to an Oracle deck because I'm like, I literally have no idea who I am or what I should be doing with my life right now. But it also doesn't have to be pulled for the most dramatic of circumstances either. It can also be pulled just for general guidance. And I offered as part of this pre-conference to do a little Oracle reading for folks. So the way that I will do this, how many people are here? There are 17 people here. So I'm so sorry, Courtney, anyone who's here that is not here as a participant, I will not be able to do one for you because we won't have time. But anyone else who is here, you are welcome to drop a number in the chat from 1 through, I would say 27. For some reason, that's the first number that came to my mind. So just drop a number in there, and honestly, what it's being used for is for me to go to a page in a text that I have been reading and reflecting on by Adrienne Marie Brown and from her Emergent Strategy series with Alexis Pauline Gumbs. We Will Not Cancel Us. This is not an ad, y'all. She ain't paying me. I'm pretty sure she knows who I am, but she's not paying me. So yeah, I love Adrienne Marie Brown, and she's also someone, she's someone who's spiritual and also like transformative and healing justice-based work I have followed for a while. So I'm going to just be using this text as a way to like, and I will also say that I got this idea. The reason I am doing this with this book is Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who is also a doula and someone who reads Oracle and Tarot. I have seen her do this exercise of pulling Oracle for like when she's at talks or when she's doing like small group sessions from books that she has written. So often Oracle decks come along with a guiding book and a deck of cards. I'm not using a deck of cards for this, but I'm using a text that feels deeply connected to the work that I do and the moment that I'm in my life to provide like insight. And if you've seen this done and you like it, great. If you don't and don't want to participate, you don't have to. I'm not pushing anything on anyone. Yeah, it has just been really beautiful to see, I will say, Alexis Pauline Gumbs engage with her work in this way. And it's always really encouraging for me as a Black queer femme person to see other Black queer femme people taking up this practice that is often so misconstrued or just not really understood. So yes, if you are interested, drop a number in the chat, 1 through 27, and I will just look at the numbers and go down and read out things for folks. And these will be guiding messages for you to take in closing related to the things that we discussed here today. Again, the book is Adrienne Marie Brown's We Will Not Cancel Us and Other Dreams of Transformative Justice. While folks drop numbers, I'm going to read part of the intro and part of the conclusion. We might go a little bit over. Kay, is that okay? Am I allowed to go over? Because otherwise I don't.
How much time you think it'll take to go? We'll be going over.
I might go over by like 10, 15 minutes.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Are y'all okay with sticking around for this? If folks also aren't interested, we don't have to do it. That's fine, Laura. Thank you. If folks could give like a bit of indication, either with a reaction or with a note in the chat of if they want to stay over to do this activity. But if folks don't want to, we don't have to. We can end the call here. Okay, Monica, you're interested?
Are the ASL interpreters okay with it going over also? Just wanted to check in with them.
Hi, ASL interpreters actually have to go right at 3.
Okay. Well, we can wrap up here. Folks haven't necessarily replied to this either. Okay, now Hannah has said yes. If those folks, okay. It's totally fine, y'all. If folks who are interested want to hop on another call with me, I'm happy to finish this conversation with you. Yeah, if you could input your info in the directory, actually, if you are interested, and just put a star next to your name, we can end this call, and then through one of those means of contact, I will get in contact with you. I will text you at your phone number to do the little thingy for you, to do the oracle for you, so that we can end on time and respect that some folks have to go. So I think that's a solution to that. If you are interested, just put your info in the directory, and I'll get in contact with you. Does everyone who needs the link have it? Because we're about to end the call. Okay, y'all, thank you so much for coming and chilling with Courtney and I. It's been a really dope 2 hours. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your experience at Justice Now. And of course, contact us if you are interested in doing any further work with Urge Georgia or